Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. Get ready to put the master into the term Master of Ceremonies, as we're about to hear from Sara Deacon, an experienced MC and event facilitator of 360-degree MC. Sara is about to enlighten us on the vital role of an MC in creating successful event experiences, the importance of connection, and how to read the room effectively. Know the difference between a keynote speaker and an MC, and how to hire the best for both for your next event experience. Welcome back, everyone, to Event Experience by Bizzabo. I am your host, Rachel Moore, of course, and I always like to tell you all who we are welcoming onto the podcast. Today's guest is no stranger to the stage. In fact, she'll help take the strangeness out of any event stage. She has a background in event operations and publishing for When Stories Media Group, as well as, and I'm super interested in this because I have a little bit of this myself, not the coaching part, she has been a coach in karate as well as life. So I love who we're talking to today. And she's also today the CEO of 360-degree MC. I am thrilled to welcome Sara Deacon to the podcast. Sara, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. And I will get into some of the personal stuff too. But yeah, I took karate back in my youth. And so to this day, I can still do a high kick. And so
nice.
I thank it for my flexibility that I still have at the ripe age of 50. But I just love that was part of your background. And I know it's just a small part. But speaking of which, I barely was able in 2 sentences told people about who you are. I would love to give you the opportunity to do that today. So let me toss it back over to you. Can you tell us more about yourself, your current role, title, brand, kind of what's your world like right now?
Oh, my world is exploding all over the place. You mentioned the karate. I actually came to the martial arts when I was 39 years old. So I didn't do it as a kid. My kids were doing it. So I jumped on the bandwagon with them because we were all there all the time anyway. I have 3 sons. So all 4 of us are black belts. And my husband, I think made it to green. He didn't make it quite as far. But yeah, that really informed a lot of what I was doing with the various iterations of business that I've tried as an entrepreneur. I was working with families postpartum, working with newborns and babies. And then I did some coaching for some, general life. I was doing some support for teens and young adults and their parents a few years ago. And as I evolved in that business, I realized that when I would speak to promote my coaching business, that's where I felt most alive. And I know a lot of people, and you probably are familiar with this too, most people would rather die than take a microphone and talk in front of people.
Yes, exactly.
Not me. I have always been a little bit of a performer. And as I was doing more of that speaking, I started saying yes to some different opportunities, which is how I landed at When Stories with Wendy Babcock. I did one of the events that she was doing. She does a 3-day conference every year, and she was doing everything herself. The first one I attended, and I saw it, and I'm like, she needs somebody. She needs somebody to help facilitate, orchestrate, somebody to allow her to relax a little bit and actually enjoy what she was building and putting together. And the partnership with Wendy really blossomed from there. I offered to MC her next event, and she was all in. She said, I felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders when you asked me that. And I did the event. And again, it was one of those aha moments where every fiber of my being, stepping on that stage, interacting with the audience, connecting with the people in the room and holding that space.
Yeah.
It just lit me up. So that is how I became the 360-degree MC, because it wasn't just those moments on stage that fulfilled me. It was the collaboration before and after and throughout the process that's why I call it the 360-degree MC, because it's not just showing up, grabbing a microphone. It is a full circle collaboration from start to finish. And I see myself as a cheerleader, supporter. I get all in on the causes and goals and missions of the people that I work with for events.
Awesome.
So,
I
yeah.
love that. I was actually too thinking, like, I was thinking very literally of 360 degrees, like theater in the round. If anyone's ever
Mm.
been to something like that, where you're like, there's a stage in the middle and there's chairs like literally all around surrounding, kind of like an arena and stuff. But
Oh,
you
yeah,
made
and your eyes have to be everywhere when you're on a
oh,
stage. I mean, and
yep.
as a MC, it's my job to make sure everything goes smoothly and that nobody ever knows if anything's are a little bumpy and wiggly in the background.
I love the bumpy and the wiggly. We're definitely going to dig into all that stuff. Let's start though with some get to know you questions just to get everybody warmed up to you here. All right.
All right.
So I would imagine you've had some days where you are going to be on your feet all day. And every event planner listening to this is like, yeah, that's part of my world is you're just having those 12 to 14-hour days or longer
Oh,
where
yes.
you're just on your feet all day. What are your go-to on the ground event day shoes that you like to wear?
I don't buy any shoes besides Zero brand shoes now. I
Hmm.
am a fan of the barefoot style, Zero
Yes.
Rise. So it's XERO shoes.com. So
Nice.
free publicity for them, but I bought a pair of sneakers from them a few years, like probably more than a few years ago. They're pretty beat up now, but I still wear them. Not on stage, but out and about. But they have boots, they have cute little Mary Jane styles. They have all sorts of different styles, and they're all that barefoot style. They're super comfortable for me. I have wide feet, I have bunions. I need comfort. And the fact that they make some really cute styles too is amazing. I have this pair of gray boots that I just love right now that I wear on
Nice.
my stages. Yeah.
Nice. I can relate. I actually had a bunion at one point too that I had removed. We named it Paul before it got evicted, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had
I'm at
surgery on one of them, the other one's still hanging around, but
at that point you're like, I'm just gonna wear comfortable shoes. It'll be fine. But I
right, yeah.
love that recommendation. Is there anything that you're listening to, watching, or reading these days that you can't put down? And it does not have to be MC or event related.
I have been reading the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J.
Mm.
Maas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of into that genre right now for fun, but I really haven't had a ton of time to read much because I am in the thick of getting our next When Stories anthology to publication right now. So
Oh
I've
wow.
been reading a lot of other people's stories for editing purposes and publishing purposes right now. So
Got it. Well, that's definitely things you can't put down, but that's a great book recommendation too, and totally can understand. Like sometimes it's like I just want to have time to read.
right. And I really love the audio versions of those books, the fantasy stuff, because it helps me picture it in my mind when somebody else is reading it to me too. So
Totally. Is there a particular social post or a piece of media or even a hot take about events that you found interesting lately?
yeah, I actually just a couple days ago, a post came across my feed on Facebook. It's from one of the emceeing groups that I'm in, which, there's not a ton of those, but I found some.
Hmm.
And the person was talking about how they were connecting with a potential client who was hiring an MC for the very first time. And they really didn't understand what an MC brought to their event. It says on the inquiry call, I quickly realized they had no idea what an MC actually brings to an event. In their heads, I was basically the person who grabs the mic and says names.
Mm.
And they go on to say, like, here's what I told them. I don't just get on a mic. I help you protect the investment you've made in this event by keeping your donors engaged, creating momentum for giving, and making sure every part of the program builds toward your goal. And then goes on to talk about that collaboration and the sort of full circle consultation that I mentioned bringing to an event, that we get invested with the event, even though it may be for a brief time. I mean,
Mhm.
I still get information from various events and fundraisers that I've done in the past, and I am liking posts. I still interact. So I
Yeah.
become a fan. I become a collaborator. I become this connector as much as I possibly can with that event. We manage the room, we keep the energy high, we get to
Yeah.
do all the things. And then in that post, it was really cool because that client hired that MC and ended up raising 4 times as much money for that
Whoa.
fundraiser
Wow.
as they
Wow.
had in the past.
Yeah.
So it really does make a big impact. And I think, again, it's just a lot of people just have no idea. Even like
Mhm.
my friend Wendy, who when she initially hired me, she had no idea what it would mean to have that option at an event.
Yeah.
And now she's like, I'm never doing another event without an MC. And of course, she's never doing another event without me. But
Right. Well, and thank you for answering that too, because this actually segues perfectly into what we want to talk with you about today is all the aspects of an MC. And, we have our audience of event planners. They might be new to their profession. They might be veterans. But when this industry is changing all the time, the way that, events are put on and the types of rooms and the types of setups, and it's all changing all the time and trends change. So it's a super relevant question and topic to get into. So let's get into that topic, because the first question I kind of want to ask you is just something super basic, like 101 here, which you just touched on a bit, but I'd love to give you some more room to expand on it. Can you describe, like, how is an MC, you just described a bit about like what an MC does, like what they're responsible for and what they can mean to an event. I mean, do you feel like, it feels like sometimes people might be like, oh, it's just like a keynote speaker. That's a kind of my MC. It's like, maybe not. Can you describe to us, how is an MC different from, say, hey, let me hire this keynote speaker or a panelist on this panel? What's the difference there with what an MC does, between what an MC does and what they do?
Yeah, the main difference as I see it, and every MC might have a different answer for this, but the way I see it is it's when you're a keynote speaker, and I've done keynotes, like I've done workshops, I've done all sorts of different speaking, and you have your notes and you have what you're there to teach them and share, and then you share it and you're done.
Yeah.
An MC it's a whole different skill set. There's give and take, there's ebb and flow, there's reading the room, there's managing the energy, there's making sure that the speakers aren't putting people to sleep or scaring them or things like that, where if speakers kind of go off the rails in some sort of way, it's bringing the audience back. It's really having to react and respond in a way that a keynote doesn't necessarily have to do. And obviously, if you're speaking, if you're giving a keynote presentation, there is interaction, there's connection, there's communication, there's engagement. And the MC has to be even more on their toes for all of that thing, because there's so many other factors at play in an event, because you have multiple speakers usually and multiple activities, and there's a lot that can happen and can surprise you, and to have that flexibility and ability to respond and stay calm, because we can all respond, but it might not be the most effective response in the moment. So being able to have that, both a presence and a distance, to not get flustered when things kind of go off the rails, to stay calm, to communicate clearly, to be concise. There's so many factors at play, and the ability to respond and stay flexible, I think, is the biggest difference with emceeing.
Yeah. Well, you touched on this a little bit, in what you were sharing with the kind of the hot take on, or, a post about it, where someone came in with an assumption. I still remember, I actually worked in radio very briefly. There's a movie I love called Radioland Murders, where it's like, you've got someone who's like speaking into a microphone and they're reading off a script. And, they're putting like their energy and effort so they don't sound like a snooze fest, obviously. But it seems like, we can tend to make assumptions and view an MC as the person on stage, like, oh, you're just a warm body reading a teleprompter for me, and I know your hair and makeup and outfit will be done. Yay. But you've already kind of pointed out that's a wrong assumption. Like, I'd love to ask you, like, so it really is kind of a superpower of facilitating, all the things you're talking about. This isn't just warm body showing up on stage. Okay, I did my part and I'm off and now I'm disengaged. Can you go into us for a little bit? Like, what does it mean to you to be like that facilitator on stage? And, you're taking it way beyond quote unquote warm body with a microphone.
Right. And I've been a warm body on stage reading a script. That's fine. Like, I've been paid to do that. And because sometimes that's what events want. That's all they want to do. It's buttoned up. It's, A to B to C. Here's the script. Read the script. Say the things. And I try to bring my personality into those events too, a little, that kind of thing. I've been a performer. I've acted. I've done things like that. And reading a script, even cold reading, even if I've never seen the script before and somebody's like, here, show up, do this, I can read a script like I've practiced it several times,
Yeah.
it feels natural. So there's skill there too, even in reading a script. And a lot of events, especially fundraisers and nonprofits, bring in like local celebrities, like newscasters and things like that. And you said you were in radio where you're reading scripts and you're engaging, and that is a skill, and that takes talent, and that takes preparation and all the training that you do for those things. If you're reading the news, if you're a news anchor, if you're that kind of in that kind of profession. When you get a newscaster in front of a live audience, they don't necessarily have the same ability to give and take the
Yeah.
energy. They're reading their script. They're doing what they know to do.
Yeah, the facilitation part, like,
But the
you're right, like
facilitation part it's like another layer to it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and thank you for that too, because I love that analogy of a newscaster, because that is a completely different environment. And granted, it's not like it's not a pressure environment, right? Like
Oh, of
if we all
course.
if
I'm
we've
not
all
dissing them. I'm just saying,
right,
like, it's a
right.
different skill set, and you have to when you're planning an event, you have to consider what kind of experience you want that
Yeah.
audience to have.
Yeah. Absolutely, right? Where it's like, because if and again, those differences are like even if I can like think about this podcast, like right now, you and I are having a discussion, and we know contextually that this is going to be listened to by
Right.
people and passively, but also, I definitely listen to podcasts too where I like talk back to it. I'm like, yeah. Now, granted, Sarah, you and I aren't going to hear the people talking back to it. We're imagining it. But if I were to drop you or even myself like onto a stage now with 300 people in the room, the dynamic changed just now, and so
Oh,
you're
of course.
completely right with like how that person that you're having and to become that facilitator of your event on the stage as the MC, they have just taken on a bigger role. They've taken
Right.
on or the role that you need them
It's
to
another
take on.
layer, like, it's a
Yeah.
different perspective, it's a different kind of experience, different
Yeah.
flavor, if you will.
Yeah. And really one that people can customize, like you said, like if they
Yeah,
need
absolutely.
I need you to show up and just read these names. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Or I need you to take us to the next level and just be, the audience needs to have fallen in love with you by the end of the event and also and be like, good, I got that too, and just being able to accommodate that for whatever the need is, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I have such fun doing events
Hmm.
that I think that's something that I bring too, is just like when you see somebody having fun, you can't help but smile a little bit, even if it's not your flavor, even if you're not
Yeah.
really like the same, on the same vibe. You see somebody else like in their element, doing their thing, like passionate, happy, excited. You're gonna be a little bit more invested in the experience just because somebody else is going to that level.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. From backstage to the spotlight, the Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo gives you a front row seat to the event industry's most captivating stories. Want to get more out of each episode? Visit bizzabo.com/podcast. That's bizzabo.com/podcast for show notes, transcripts, links, and resources mentioned in each episode, and more. The Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo, where events become unforgettable experiences. We're back with Sara Deacon to see if we can grasp the art of reading the room from the stage. I'd love to ask you about reading the room, because that can be a spot where I would be willing to bet a lot of our audience has experienced it where either they were in the room with an MC who didn't know how to read the room or was choosing not to, or they've had to hire an MC or someone to be on stage and kind of be that persona up there. They need them to be able to read the room. And you brought up already there are so many aspects of an event at play, and anything can change, go wrong, go really right. It's just such a fluid situation to be in. Do you have any examples of how reading the room is just such a vital aspect for an event MC? Because I think we can all, I've certainly seen, and maybe I've been this in the past too, the deer in the headlights person where it's like, oh, something went wrong. What do I do? And they freeze.
Right.
But
Yep.
yeah, would love to, what's been your experience with that? Any
Ugh,
examples or anything like
gosh,
that
where
where
to
that is
begin? Where to begin? So I have written a book and it's called Welcome to the Stage, the 360-degree approach to hosting events like a pro.
Mhm.
And there is a whole chapter called The Art and Science of Reading the Room. So most of the time, when somebody's not doing it.
Mhm.
Like, as an audience member, I have sat in audiences where I'm like, they haven't practiced this bit, have they? And you can feel it, and it is
Yeah.
a sensation in the body. You get a little antsy, you get a little, like, cringe for, like, what they're doing, and if it's not landing, you can kind of feel that ripple through the audience,
Yeah.
and it's easy from the audience to say, "Oh my god, that sucked." It's a lot harder to go from the stage and be like, "What does the audience need right now?" So
Yeah.
so there's art to it, there's science to it. With the science of it, when you're on stage, you gotta pay attention. You talked about that theater in the round, right? Paying attention to all sides, the corners of the room. Are people, like, running around? Like, are the event people, the staff, the caterers, are they running around? Are they whispering to each other? Are they, is there some energy buzz, like, happening in the corners on the sidelines? Okay, what's happening? Is a speaker speaking or am I speaking?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's a speaker speaking, okay, I go find my point person. What's going on? Do you need me to cover? What do you need from me? Okay, nothing? Cool. I'll keep the show going. Oh,
Yeah.
you need me to riff for 20 minutes? All right, cool.
And now
Let's
you're a
go.
comic. Yeah.
Right. Now it's okay, what story do I tell? What activity do we do?
Yeah.
And you have those things in your back pocket, right?
Mm.
But as far as the audience, are more people than usual getting up and using the bathroom? Are
Right.
people shifting in their seats? Is there more coughing? That's the science of it. Like, what's the noise level? What are the bodies doing?
Mhm.
Right? What's that body language? That's the eyes and ears open all times, whether I'm talking or not. My eyes and ears still open, right?
Yeah.
And then the art of it comes in is, okay, what do they need? Do they
Mm.
need a break? Do they need to stand up and stretch? Do they need a joke? Do they need a song? What do they need? And now I'm
Yeah.
not going to sing, but maybe if there's a DJ and we can get a little dancing going.
Right.
But the art comes in, like, where do they need to go? And
Mhm.
how do I bridge that gap?
Yeah.
Is the energy low? Is the energy too high? Have they not stopped talking from the last networking break? And then the art comes in, is like, okay, what move do I make to get them there? And
I
that, of course, is different for every room.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up something super key too, which it can be really easy to think that, oh, I'm hiring an MC, they'll show up, they'll do what I ask them to do. What maybe, and we're about to get into this question in a second, but I think, but you need to, I like that you pointed out that you as an MC are like, yeah, but I'm ready for the thing that you maybe didn't think to ask me or that you didn't foresee happening. Cause that can totally happen. Everything's running on a schedule. And
Yep.
what if that does like something, that you were basically, hey, I was just supposed to be up here for 2 minutes teeing up like another 30-minute segment. Well, that
Yep.
person's late now and
Travel
we had to do
plans
it.
change, planes are delayed,
Exactly.
there's traffic,
Exactly.
there's tech
Yeah.
issues, there's something, there's always something.
Yeah, and then just oh my god, hey, MC, guess what? We have this unexpected 15,
Guess what?
20-minute
I'm a
gap.
keynote now.
Yes, and to be able to have the, "Oh, yep, I got that," and rather than to be like, "Well, that's not what you hired me for, figure it out yourself," but no, you're actually saying, "No, I know that I'm part of this event being a success, and
Right.
that includes when the unexpected happens, and therefore,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this work for you." But that takes, like you said, there's an extra level or like you said, a layer
Yeah.
of that
Yeah,
of
it's a
that
different
service
skill
you're
set.
providing. Yeah.
Yeah, that ability to be flexible, to pivot in the moment, to respond, to come up with something off the cuff that is related and relevant to whatever the event experience has been to that point.
Yeah.
So, there was a moment, the very first event I emceed, actually, I felt this moment. We were about to move into one of the last parts of the last day. We were doing a panel discussion, I think it was. And it was after, 2 days full of a lot of deep stuff, personal, professional development. And it was like, I could feel that like there was this weight in the room after the breakfast speaker on that third day. And I could feel that there was something, like we just needed something before going right into the next thing.
Yeah.
So what I did, and the host trusted me, it was Wendy, and she trusted me with it. And I was like, I'm going off script for a minute here and just go with me because I think this is going to be awesome. And I said just to the room, I was like, I feel like we need a minute because we've been learning a lot. I named it. I named the energy that I felt in the room. And I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to just give you a little time to release. And I want to hear from you, the audience, like what has been a big takeaway for you from this experience.
Yeah.
And I grabbed a handheld microphone. I went into the audience and I said, nobody needs to share if they don't want to, but I feel like people need to say something. Like I just felt it. And I just went with my instinct. I went with my gut on it. And it was this moment at this event that it was not scripted. It was not part of the program. Wendy talks about it to this day, and it is now part of the program.
Nice. Yeah.
Because it was so effective and so impactful for not just for her running the event, like her experience and her success of the event, but for the people in the audience to be able to take a breath and just, roll over some of their takeaways and some of those big moments that they had experienced. So it was and it was just this, I'm feeling a little some sort of way in this room. Where do we need to go?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Thank you for that example too, because that's where it's like just sensing that, I know we're on a schedule and we can still stick to that schedule, but maybe something else is called for here. And that's such a great human thing to point out about how this isn't performative. Obviously there's, quote unquote performance involved, but this is
a lot of it is.
Right. But at the beginning and the end of it, it's about humans in the same room. And
I facilitated a lot of very emotional events, and I don't cry until the day after. I'm not at the moment, like, I don't, because I'm performing, right?
Yeah.
So there is performance 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also being real. And I feel like my job, especially in those more intimate events or more emotionally charged rooms where it's my job to hold the space rather than get involved and crumble and fall apart.
Exactly.
And be like deep in the experience with everyone. Is I'm in the experience. I'm not all the way in because I've got a job to do. So there is that performance. So there's separation again. And that's another skill set. Not everybody can do that and set aside their own emotion to meet the need of people in a room. So
that's right.
There's so much. Yeah.
Well, and with there being so much, so people listening to this episode, what would you like our audience of event planners, so the people who are going to be enlisting, hiring, seeking out MCs for their events that they're planning? What do you want them to know when it comes to doing that? How do I get that best MC to make my attendee experience fantastic? What would you like them to know as they start that quest or continue that quest?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned the book. Get the book. That'll tell you a lot more than I'm going to say right now. But what you need to know is whether you choose to do the emceeing yourself or get somebody else to do it for you. Some people, some teams have volunteers or you're going to volunteer somebody to MC your event. Okay, cool. If you're not there to the point of hiring somebody, that's totally fine. But understand that emceeing is a whole job in itself. And if you're going to choose to do it, then you need to have the bandwidth to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And again, keeping that idea in mind, what experience do you want your people to have? Because it's not about your performance as much as it is about what the people in front of you need. And yes, that is impacted by your performance. But it's not just I'm going to get more stage time because I'm gathering people into a room to sell them something or promote my business or promote my nonprofit or get their money. It's both. And if the people in front of you are not having a positive, connected, engaging experience,
Mhm.
they're not going to do what you need them to do to meet your goals for your event.
Yeah.
So keeping your event goals in mind, and then what kind of experience do you want your people to have at that event? And then again, like, are you going to do it yourself? Are
Mhm.
you going to get somebody else, volunteer somebody else to do it? Are you going to hire somebody? And understanding that hiring somebody is an investment and it is going to make your event better and more successful in ways both quantifiable and maybe not necessarily as quantifiable, but you'll know the difference. You'll be able to
Yeah.
feel it, even if you can't quantify it. I mean, it does translate into more financially successful events. I mean, that's proven. I've done the same event with Wendy, since that first one, I've done it 3 times, and each time she makes more money from the event. So
Nice.
the first event she did by herself, she was in the hole, like, several $1,000s. The
Yeah.
second time, she was in the hole a little less. When I came in for the 3rd year and she broke even, and
Yay.
then the 4th and 5th year, she made money and more each time. So again, like, bringing in that extra person, that outside person, it has value. Not only that monetary or bottom line value, but
Mhm.
also the experience of the attendees. Like, what kind of testimonials are you going to want? What do you want people saying after that event? So thinking of all of that. And again, those few simple things to to bring to your event. And yeah, and just understanding that the choice you make in the facilitator that you bring in is going to impact the event experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing
Right.
that. I love it. So, Sarah, you've shared such a tonnage of great insights today about the value of emceeing. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we take away with us today?
Yeah, one more thing about the value of an MC is an MC makes you look amazing. If you're the only one on stage, it's kind of like that, overexposure almost, where you wanna keep a little something in the mystery. When you have an MC singing your praises and making you look awesome and connecting you to the audience, acting as that bridge, that is really valuable too. So it's just something I do talk about it in the book about how having somebody else singing your praises actually makes it more impactful
Mm.
than you just doing it yourself for the whole time. So I did want
You
to
know,
mention that.
I love that you brought that up because, I mean, we do live in the age of reviews, where people are like, hey, it means a lot more to me if someone who isn't you is telling me how great you are. And so
Exactly,
that you,
exactly.
that small little tweak, that small aspect can like make
Yeah,
that
it
big.
gives you credibility.
Love it. Love it. I've got my final question for you. Probably easiest question of all. Where can our listeners find and follow you online?
Yeah, my website is my name, saradeacon.com. There's no H. I think the one with the H is like a calligrapher or something, but SaraDeacon, saradeacon.com is my website. You can find links to the book there on the website, links to all my social media at Sarah. It's Sara Deacon 360 on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Skill up yourself and your event MC with this piece of wisdom from Sarah's experience.
It really comes down to the word that keeps coming up in my mind is connection. And if people don't feel connected to you or connected to your event, they're not going to buy into whatever it is you're trying to promote, to your vision, to your mission, to your movement, whatever you're trying to build. The key is connection. Bringing the people together. I mean, we can do so much on Zoom. If you're having in-person connection, like in-person events, there's got to be connection. There's got to be something that brings that spark to it.
Yeah.
So that's really one thing I would say is my biggest piece of advice is connect.
Yeah.
Connect like authentically with your people. Like, share your story, share why you are so passionate about what you're building, what you see, where you see your movement going. I like to say that I take the mic so you can lead the movement, because so many people are so passionate. You're building something, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a cause that's dear to your heart, whether it's a business that you're building, people you're trying to serve, whoever you're trying to help. I work exclusively with people who want to bring something magical to make the world better.
Yeah.
Because I want to get on board. I want to be excited and inspired by what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that the people you're bringing together are excited and inspired by it. And you can't do that if you are just hanging out backstage all the time. You're just presenting slides and not engaging with the people in front of you. Yeah. People are surrounded by videos, AI, all the things. There has to be human connection. You have to understand where people are coming from, and you have to share where you're coming from and find that common ground and connect.
Love it. That's wonderful. And yeah, that's exactly what you do, what every event should do, but you really have demonstrated how fundamentally necessary it is to have that person on the stage who can do that from start to finish and throughout all the pieces of the event. Thanks again to Sara Deacon for joining us on Event Experience, and thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.